Hey, what's up, freelancers? Rictator here again with another video, and today I would like to talk about the big question around Anthem. Should you go back to Anthem, or should you buy Anthem now? Or should you even wait for 2.0? So let's get into it. And first off, if you do enjoy my work and want to support the channel, I only ask that you subscribe to my channel and drop a like below. It means the world to me because it helps in many ways and lets me know, what you want to see more of from me. So anyways, back to the initial question. I apologize. Should you return to, or should you buy Anthem now, or is it in a good state to return? As a returning player myself, I would say that my answer is yes. Now I'll explain my answer, and I'll go over the pros and cons I've experienced so that you can make your own decision. And to be upfront, I was an Anthem supporter from day one, as I love BioWare and what they've produced in the past. So who doesn't like customizing, an Iron Man suit and blowing everything up? But after the initial launch and in-game, I unfortunately dropped this game pretty quickly for better content as it was lacking. I did return every now and then to witness new improvements, and so you may be thinking, of course, yes, you enjoyed it, you're a fan, and blah, blah, blah. But that's why I'm hoping my explanation here is going to justify my answer, and I kind of want to give you an overview as to what we've experienced at launch and progressively to where it is now, over the recent updates. So for an overview of the game and kind of what I and many experienced at launch, is of course you start at level 1 freelancer, you burn through the main campaign, experience stories in Fort Tarsus, and then you play stylist from time to time for making your javelin look however the hell you want it to look. So in depth. It's extremely in depth what you can do there. You should honestly check out our fashion lancers on Reddit sometime. It's actually very impressive what some people come up with, especially some guys have made their javelins look like Spawn, which is pretty incredible. Anyways, there's practically no in-game though after that, compared to other games like Destiny or hell, Tarkov kind of has an in-game, but it's not even really like a looter shooter, or Warframe if you want to consider it that way. The game was riddled with bugs and we're constantly getting patched and repatched and so forth. But outside of the initial Cataclysm event that came out several months later, you were only left with 3 strongholds that you started with: Tyrant Mine, Temple of the Scar, and Heart of Rage, which is basically just a redesign of the last mission of the campaign where you fight the Monitor. That is until we receive the Sunken Cell, which is the video that you see here, the final stronghold. And honestly, I thought this was a very fun stronghold, just a very lacking big boss associated with it. But the scenery and the enemy groupings were great. I just felt that the update came very late. Outside of that, you did have standard missions to rerun for loot purposes, and those were called critical path missions. So outside of that, BioWare released another update releasing legendary missions with the critical paths that allowed to go back to the critical path missions and bumped it to a max level with huge loot rewards on top of several new side missions for the factions, which the factions themselves unlock contracts for even more loot, and that was around late summer 2019. BioWare at this point was only releasing patches that I felt hurt the game more so than fixed it. At best, there was one where it broke the loot system and honestly made the game that much more fun, but it was sadly patched in about 24 to 48 hours. It made the loot very stingy. Now, we finally got the long-awaited Cataclysm update in August, after the game released, and the bad news from BioWare that came in amongst, I think, a few articles that you're all aware of. I'm not going to go into it. That's history, of course. But the big changes were the Cataclysm map were affected by weather and a few other things. There were puzzle areas, enemies brought in by a score system as well, that you could kind of go through with speed runs and how much damage you could do and defeat what bosses that would actually help enhance your loot, which is actually pretty cool. The score system kind of worked towards ending the in-game loot, and I felt this is when BioWare kind of started pouring out more loot for the players. They were very stingy to begin with, and this is where it started feeling good. But the new higher level loot, more weapons, new melee weapons, which are amazing. And these items and the melee weapons basically changed how the javelins were used or your attacks altogether. And many are actually still used today because they're so powerful. But this kind of led us, this was the only event until October, which I think was Season of the Skull is what it was called. this kind of just continued the Cataclysm event just with a Halloween makeover. But this also ended the Cataclysm map, which sadly removed content. But this did, bring in some other things like a bonfire and a labyrinth and a few fetch events and that kind of stuff. But it gave a new boss area and more loot, which was the big thing the game needed, was loot. The further they focused on loot and everything else, it changed the atmosphere of the game. And then lastly, as I guess for the brief overview, is you have the Icetide update, which has been out since December. It changed the map and changed a few things with Cataclysm, it also removing the Cataclysm map. All 4 of the strongholds have been updated to match the event as well, and the score system brought from Cataclysm has been included now for more war chests and loot, which is awesome. They've added a race trial track event for more loot, for like a time trial, which you can get more. And then they added a new world event that's actually pretty cool, just a little repetitive, but looks awesome, has all these wyverns flying around and frost, and it's just really cool event to do with a huge dome and everything else, so something to experience. Of course, you also got a boost in legendary item scores. I think they increased everything up to 80 from what they were at 75, which is pretty cool. So after all these updates, in addition to Anthem's loot system and a new in-game credits for, looting and building your Javelin with new abilities, I feel that honestly, from point A to point B, from launch to now, Anthem is 10 times better. I mean, you honest to God, if you want to give it a try, I would. It's $5, I think, on EA Access, which is no big deal. But with BioWare and EA also doubling down on Anthem, I feel that we could see a No Man's Sky event happen all over again with what they're focusing on. They're redoing it. They have a Q&A team and a dev team dedicated to this to put time and effort into it. I think it's going to be good. We could have a reborn Anthem 2.0. But of course, that's totally unknown right now, as we don't know kind of what the overhaul is going to do, what we're expecting from it. But until then, I feel it's worth the money to, give it a shot. See what they've introduced, see what they've changed, see if it wants to bring you back in, or see if you want to try it out for the first time. It's still very good. You have the ability now to some quality of life stuff to change armor on the go. You used to not be able to do that. Continue to a new mission without having to go back to Fort Tarsus. So as soon as you end a mission, you can go right back to another one or go to the open world. There are now fast travel to key areas as well, which is wonderful. They even added purple icons in the open world showing where enemies will be in the world that will spawn for more loot. They're trying to reward us for playing and having fun and everything else, and just being a badass. I mean, to be honest, if you've seen the gameplay here, being a Javelin is awesome. You do so much damage and so fast, and it's a blast to do. The only Fort Tarsus was the only downfall, in my opinion, outside of the in-game stuff, but overall it was still very fun. So I guess I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, but the Too Long Didn't Read version of this, or didn't listen, the loot system's been massively improved. The in-game content is in a much better state than what it was. Customization has continued to grow. And of course, it's not without any shortcomings, as some crashes are still present and the loading screens still appear from time to time, sadly. But that's also given the engine a frostbite that they're having to use. But of course, there's, like I mentioned before, massive quality of life stuff to help. In short, all the guns feel good to use. Your Javelin feels OP as it should. And hopefully we see more things like this or future strongholds in the mix to keep it going. I just hope that when Anthem 2.0 comes out, they do improve upon these and kind of revamp everything else as it goes. I'm really excited for it. I hope to hear further news. I know they're going to be very quiet as things goes on, but we'll see where it goes and we'll see where it leads us to. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. Are you done with Anthem altogether? Is it dead? Is it too late? But let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd be interested in to hear and see what you have. But that does it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it very helpful. I do thank you all for watching today, and I will see you next time.